Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Daniel Jackson once again, and welcome to another episode of Politics for the People. This is going to be episode 4, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about the reasons. All right, so I've had about 3 episodes so far, and I talked about a number of things to include guns versus mental health, talked about some youth participation in the overall vote, and talked about how we can get our youth to be more civil, right? I think that was the first episode. But this one right here, I really want to just kick back with a few well-known people to me, and I want to talk about some of the reasons why I'm going to be running. But first and foremost, I want to remind everybody I'm going to be running for 12th congressional district next year, 2024, as a representative or running as a candidate for representative of the 12th congressional district, which is these 24 counties that you see before you. All right, so Georgia's 12th congressional district are 24 counties from the top, Wilkes and Lincoln County, all the way down to the bottom. Those 24 counties, about 750,000 people. All right, a lot of issues, and that's what I came out here to talk about. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a good friend of mine, Mr. Corey Gordon. Corey is a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time now. Corey is a barber, but at the same time, he's also now the founder and CEO of Sausage Slinger LLC. You can catch him at a lot of the different events around town, putting out that good sausage for the public. So, Mr. Gordon, what's going on, sir?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Hey, look, we're gonna have a good conversation. Now, I'm not gonna get too far into, the relationship about me and you, but I think people will start to find out. There's a lot of goodness between me and Mr. Gordon. It's like my brother right here. So welcome.
I agree. Appreciate it, bro. I'm glad to be here.
All right. And next, last and definitely not least, I have a special person that I'm introducing. This is Miss Twin Jackson. Some people know her as Household Six for me, but she's a lot more than that. She is her own person, her own storyline, and that's why I'm bringing her in here. A very knowledgeable individual that needs to be part of this conversation. But I welcome Miss Jackson. How you doing?
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, okay, cool.
I didn't know if I was going to get an invite, but I appreciate the invite.
Hey, everybody's included. Matter of fact, especially since you can go vote for me, man, I got to include you in conversations too. I don't want nobody feeling left out. All right, so check this out. I didn't want to have too much of a, I would say a script this time around. Try not to have scripts at all. But the bottom line to this is I really wanted to just talk about the reasons why I'm running. And I know you two, you hear me all the time talking about these random reasons why I'm running. There's a lot to my background. I try not to bore people with the long background, but at the same time, I think we agree on a lot of different topics as to the things that are wrong, not just within Augusta, Richmond County, the CSRA, but if you've been anywhere outside of the area, you can see certain things that are working well in other areas. And then you come back to our area and you're like, well, why don't we have this? Why can't we do this? Or why can't we do that in Augusta? So for me, I have a number of reasons that I want to put out there to the public, how I want to run or why I want to run. But for me tonight, what I really want to do is I want to talk with you all and let's get some feedback on some of those reasons, because it's not about me as a candidate. It's about me being a representative to all of my constituents. So Ms. Jackson, Mr. Gordon, you are my constituents. First thing I'm gonna throw out there is I just do not feel that the people in the 12th congressional district, which is majority rural, I don't think that we have the necessary resources to be able to fulfill the potential of the children here within the 12th congressional district. Not just the children, let's just say all people, because Georgia as a whole fails on a number of levels, whether it be, we have low, we rank very low in education. We rank very low in healthcare. We rank very low in a number of areas. I believe Ms. Selena Keys last week said access to mental health care were like dead last. There's a lot of issues and a lot of things that we can improve around the area. I'm going to start with this one. What about the opportunities? Now, Mr. Gordon, we've talked about the South Side, right? Me and you, South Side of Augusta, we talked about the Regency Mall. We talked about how there's a lack of restaurants on that side, all that good stuff. Please chime in, man. what's some of the stuff that you're seeing on the South Side or throughout Augusta where you would say we need to do better as an area and as a people?
For starters, man, we got to come together. Ain't nothing gonna happen until we come together. It's like for me, everybody doing their own thing, everybody trying to make it, but instead of coming together, figuring out what we need to do, they just run around chicken with their head cut off instead of asking somebody, or they got their own group and not letting nobody else in. So when it comes to building the South Side, we're gonna never build the South Side because ain't enough people trying to, or maybe they don't know the how to. They'll start, or we might start, but a lot of us ain't educated. We'll get to a certain level, and then you, like far as a business, you'll see a business start up, then you'll see that business slowly disappear because they just give up. They don't know how.
Right. So to that point, I totally understand what you're saying when you say the business side of it, because that's one of the biggest things that I've seen. Me growing up on the Richmond County side of things, over on the South Side. And when I refer to the South Side of Augusta, I'm referring to close to Fort Gordon, but on the Richmond County sides, right? So we're talking about Tobacco Road area, going down Dean's Bridge. There's a lot of neighborhoods. You can also consider the South Side being Windsor Spring, Peach Orchard. That area is an area that is usually underserved, I would call it, because at the end of the day, when you start talking about opportunities, it would be what I would call an opportunity desert, right? So when we talk about food deserts, it's an opportunity desert because it's not saying states or other areas, congressional districts. I'm pretty sure we lack. Miss Jackson, you are from San Diego. You were raised in San Diego. And I know we have a lot of passionate conversations about the difference between the California education system versus the Georgia education system, the difference between the California transportation system versus the Georgia transportation system. And it's almost comparing apples to oranges because California is more developed, right? There's a lot more people there in concentrated areas. So you had to figure things out a lot earlier than we had to, right? But for Augusta to be a growing city, for this area and all the areas within the 12th congressional district asking for growth, what are some of the things that you noticed within Augusta, Georgia, or around the 12th congressional district that you would say in California we should apply those things or take a look at those things to see if we could actually improve here?
So before I get to that question, let me answer what you asked Corey, because I'd like to be in on that one too.
Yes, ma'am.
Pertaining to the South Side, even though I didn't grow up in the South. I mean, the South Side, I grew up in the hood nonetheless. You know what I mean? And my community is completely different than your community. But I can tell you that it's one and the same. And I think it just, in my personal opinion, that we have a problem with asking for help, right? Because you sat here and you said that people will start businesses and then it'll just slowly die off. Well, that the issue is that we don't ask for help. We ask our people, which are the people that we know to our right and to our left, to help us out. But you got to understand that their work ethic is not the same as our work ethic. I can sit here and I can start a job and I know this is my business, so I am going to put my all into it. But that's not saying my brother is going to put his all into it, or my friend of a friend is going to put they all into my business. You know what I'm saying? So we don't go out there and we don't ask outside entities to help us. And I think that's where we fail as a community, because we need that outside help to help us because we don't know everything. So that's where I think that we can improve on the South Side. If we just get rid of that, I don't know, that pride that we have in us to ask for help. There are so many people, entities out there that set up to help the underserved, but yet they don't do a good job of advertising, but yet we are on the receiving end, but yet we don't go out there looking for them to see if they can help us. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a big thing that we need to do, is to go out there and just ask for help, regardless of who it be. That networking portion, to go to like what you've been doing, just go to all these crazy meetings that they have out there and see what kind of opportunities they have or who can help us. Because there are so many what are they, 501(c)(3)s out there, nonprofit organizations out there to help people that just like us, you know what I mean? But we don't do it. So I think that's the thing. But pertaining to San Diego and here, I think we need to get involved. That's it. You know what I mean? It's our day-to-day life. We are so involved in ourselves and what's going on. I have my kids, I have my husband, I have school, I have my job that I have to do. I don't know what's going on in the community, so I don't get involved in the community. I know what's going on with my sisters and I know what's going on with my brothers, but I don't know what's going on with my neighbors and I don't know what's going on in my neighborhood 2 blocks down. I don't know. So unless you get involved, you're not going to know the problems or the issues that's going on with the community. So how I think we can expand in Augusta. First off, we talked about this earlier pertaining to transportation, public transportation. Everybody in the South is the bigger the better. I'm going to get a bigger car. So I don't know what that means, but I guess it represents something. I don't know. But to sit here and say that, hey, I can ride public transportation. Me riding a bus doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? That means I'm trying to put into my community because I'm paying for a bus driver to drive me around from here to there. Some people can't afford a car. You know what I mean? So I think if we were to expand, we need to expand the roads so that we can actually get public transportation going on here so that people can actually travel to the grocery store and travel to the mall to go shopping or travel to the movie theaters to put more into the economy. Because right now, people on the South Side stay on the South Side. People in Harrisburg stay in Harrisburg because they can't get out of it because they don't have a mode of transportation. And who wants to ride a bike on 20 or on 520 to get to anywhere?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that insight. Look, and that's why I brought you here because just to be 100% clear and honest with everybody that's watching this, my wife hates politics. She hates politics. She hates being involved in it. But when it comes to people and their issues, that's why people say people over politics. She's very passionate about it, right? And so it's certain things that I feel like everyday Americans or average people that are walking around that aren't into politics, you look at it and you be like, well, why don't we have this? Because people should need that. That's politics. So going to what she just said, though, I want to touch on that a little bit more because referring to the transportation on places like the South Side, I actually had a conversation with a member of the transportation organization within Augusta. And we talked about the way the transportation is resourced, right? How it's resourced, urban versus rural, right? Parts of Augusta, to include the South Side, are still considered to be rural. So you have money that is flowing, as you said, into these 501c3 companies, these nonprofits, and to talk about the resources and go into those networked events. Yeah, that's where you can actually go out there and you can find out like, wow, okay, this particular organization has these resources. Literally, they have federal funding where they got a grant that is supposed to solve certain issues in the community. But we all know too well that people on the South Side don't really access resources that may be sitting downtown. I think the Jesse Number School of the Arts was one of those big ones where I really loved it once I finally saw it. But growing up on the South Side, I never had access to it because it was downtown. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm just like, okay, well, one, how do we actually let people know that those resources exist, right? Because that's step one. Like in a city like the size of San Diego or New York or those bigger cities, communication is key because you have so many people. You have to figure out how to communicate. We only have 200,000 people or 205,000 people in the Richmond County, Augusta, Georgia area. And then Columbia County, where we live at right now, we have around 160,000 people, right? So it's 50% of the people that live in the 12th congressional district that's just within these two counties. So when resources are coming out, we have to actually have a communications chain to these neighborhoods and to these areas where we can actually let them know that there is help in the form of dollars that are coming from these areas and it's going to this particular organization and everybody needs to tap in. That's what we don't do. And we don't do it here. And I know we definitely don't do it out there in the rural areas. So with that, I want to really tap into that, Mr. Gordon, like how, like we go around the South Side and there's like today we were talking about mentors. There's some young ladies over at the Augusta Partnership for Children down on Telfair Street. They're trying to find mentors for some of the young men out there, right? And we got organizations out here and we got men that are ready to help. Like, how do we combine those, Mr. Gordon? How would you say we go about actually getting the people who need the help the most out to see those organizations?
It's hard to say, man, because like I was one of those people that needed help until I met you, right? So I met you, you showed me a lot of things. So it's just we have to do a little like more networking for me, like throw some more networking parties or just going out. Just if you don't go out and look, you ain't. If you don't look, you ain't gonna receive. If you don't seek, you ain't gonna find it. Like, and once you start finding, you find the knowledge, find the education. But if you don't try to look for it, you ain't gonna find nothing.
Well, let me ask you a question to that though. Like, and this is just your personal experience, because this, me, I've been in the federal government, was in there for 20 years, so I was around the world. Coming back here, I've noticed that a lot of people don't have good internet and they don't have laptops, right? Like, it's a hindrance, and it's a different kind of obstacle than kids over here in Columbia County would face towards education, right? Because the hindrances or the obstacles over here might be something else, right? But over there, it's the basics of like, oh, well, I just can't participate in education because, like Twin was saying, the bus doesn't come by here, right? I want to go to college, but I can't get over there because I don't have a car. I can't afford that car, right? So what have you been noticing around that area as far as what could we do better as probably as a nation to make sure that areas can take place, or people within certain areas or certain income levels can take part in education?
I would say, bro, honestly, it's hard for me to answer that question because I haven't really been out myself. But I would say just getting out, I don't know.
Go ahead, Twin. You got a.
So, just in my personal opinion, I think right now it seems in certain communities that education is not needed, not wanted, and it's not cool overall. If someone was to sit there and say, I got A's, I'm sitting here, I'm going to do this huge project, then you're considered a nerd. So you're not cool. So in order to be part of the cool group, you have to sit there and, what they say, dumb yourself down. Right? So in order for these kids to actually want to go to school and progress and do better, you have to make education cool. So however that may be, it might be the Sacha Slinger of CEO coming down there and saying that education is cool because he looks like one of us. You know what I mean? It might be having a future congressman go down there and say, I used so the next education. And it's also it's not around college. It's not around and ask your neighbor and give you a ride to school. I think that's a problem running all the time. Of course, Fred Olsen at school and he wrecked hard. He was like, Twin, I can't get here. And like, can you come get me? And he take me to this little like, hey, I'll come and get you. There's so many people out there right now that are willing to do that from different parts of the neighborhood, but you just have to ask. Did he drop?
I don't know. It's blanket on my,
Well, yes. And then I think on top of what he was asking before is that it's how we get these people to go out there and know that there are different organizations out there willing to help us. It's kind of hard to do that. And that question that you couldn't ask, I sat there and I thought about it too. It's like a scamming society out here. You don't know who's truthful and who's not truthful. So how can you trust and believe that someone is there, really there, willing to help you? Because I can sit here and say, you know what? I'm willing to fund your whole entire organization, Corey. Like whatever you're trying to do, I'm trying to help you. And I'm pretty sure if you didn't know me from Adam, you would sit here, or Eve, you would sit here and look at me and be like, this girl's tripping. She don't know what she's talking about. You know what I mean? But there's so many people out there right now that do that. I'd be like, I'm trying to help you, but like, okay, thank you, bye.
I think that's why I was saying I don't know, because when we do ask for help, in Augusta, like nobody wants to help each other. We all scattered out, and that's what I was saying. I don't know, because every time I ask for help, it's either if there's somebody in Augusta and already made it, they're not gonna help you. So it's like everybody fending for themselves. So that's really why I couldn't answer the question, because when you try, you get knocked down.
You know what? And I've heard that a lot, and that's going. Look, I'm trying to key in on some of these things because the reasons, right? The name of this episode is the reasons. The reasons why I'm running. It's because I hear about this way too often out here in Augusta, where people who want to succeed and people who want to actually excel in life, they're being shot down by the people who are there to supposedly to help, right? So it keeps you from wanting to ask questions, right? And going back to something that Twin said. Actually having people that you believe in, because she said, it may take a congressman or somebody like that to actually go and speak to people, right, in the neighborhoods, because, that's one thing I've heard moving around a lot of these different counties. When I show up, they're like, oh, well, a lot of candidates don't come out here to talk to us. The kids in these schools in those counties, they don't ever see a congressman or the mayor or whoever it may be within that town. So representation matters, right? All these things, reasons as to why I think it's important for me and everybody to come back and give back. Like, because you go and get the education. I was in the federal government once again for 20 years. And for me to leave and to come back and to see that there are people from where I'm from that feel that way, where they feel as if they can't go and ask for help, right? I'm just telling you how it goes for me. Mm-hmm. We all pay taxes, right? We have taxpayer dollars that go, and they're supposed to come back and it's supposed to work for us, right? At every level, the local level, state level, and the federal level. So these programs, I don't understand how you can have programs in place where you have so many hurdles and red tape to giving people help when those are taxpayer-funded programs, right? So that's our biggest issue, I feel, is like the people of Augusta, the people of the 12th Congressional District, the people of Georgia, and the people of the nation, we put a lot of money into these programs, and I don't really see them coming back, right? The money that you put in, federal government, they dictate that, hey, this much money is going to go to HUD, this much money is going to go to this, right? But what I see is a lot of federal resources that aren't those resources aren't trickling down back to the local level like it should. So I think that's where you get a lot of that heartburn being a local, because you're like, well, I come out here to ask for help and nobody wants to help me. So what am I supposed to do? Go ahead.
But I think that's where you have to let them know, or they let them know that they have to call their representatives and let them know what they're
All right. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear?
There, I think she got disconnected.
Yeah, you kind of breaking up on my end too, bro.
That's why we're not. By the way, folks, this is going to be our last time being live. Next week, we're not going to be doing this show. We're going to come back and we're going to start doing some shows on location. And when I say on location, what I mean by on location is we want to actually go out in the community. We're going to be in Richmond County, in Columbia County, in Lawrence County, in Emmanuel County. We're trying to go to all the counties, and we're trying to go and get the perspective, right, of all the different constituents. Once again, I say it's about 720,000, give or take, within 12 congressional districts. So you start to understand that Augusta problems are Augusta problems, but a lot of the issues are the same, right? You got issues. You see us over here breaking up. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi with us, but I heard today that you go to Burke County, there's a lot of issues with Wi-Fi out there. I can tell you, you go to Jefferson County, same thing. So getting back to the reasons, how is it that when we travel places like to Atlanta, we travel places like California and all those, how is it that those resources are so developed out there and they're not developed in the rural areas? Now, I know the answer to that, right? People be like, oh, well, all the resources are usually pumped into the city. But when you start talking about having a representative for an area, right? A representative is supposed to talk to your needs, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to that, how is it that we have so many things on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to services, whether it be education at the low end, healthcare at the low end? I mean, our schools have been failing in Augusta, Georgia for a while now. And so that's another reason, once again, I go back to it. Leaders leading or getting out of the way. That's like one of my things. Either you're going to lead or you're going to get out of the way. So let's talk about that. If we want to drill down into the things that are most important in a child's life, right? Because I had a good conversation earlier. I always like to go back to the kids because I feel that K through 12 education is the engine to everything within the nation. So within a child's life, if a child needs nurturing, what are those things that a child needs to succeed in life, right? We talk about leveling the playing field. That's what President Obama used to talk about a lot, saying, hey, we need to level the educational playing field so that all children can have a quality education. Do we feel like the children here are able to get a quality education, and what does that look like? So I just want to start to weigh in on those. Go ahead, Corey or Twin.
So I think all children deserves quality education, just like you stated. But I think what more, like we said, is that parents and those in the community have to get involved. Corey sat here and said earlier that when we ask and then we're met with resistance, eventually we just stop and we just give up. Well, I think that's what we need to learn is resiliency in our community, is to never give up and to teach our kids to never give up also. So my brother-in-law, he used to live in this neighborhood and it was a new neighborhood, and all of a sudden the big machines created a pothole on his new street. And guess what he did? He called his local representative almost every day to tell him that there's this pothole here and they need to come and fix it. This is not his problem. He just got that house built and he just moved in, and it should not be a pothole the size of Texas on the street. So he called every single day to get it fixed. We should do the same thing. If education is messed up and we know there's money, our tax dollar money going towards education, why are we not calling our representatives and talking about it? Why are we just saying that's the car we dealt with, so oh well? Why are we doing that? I don't understand. I had to move to a whole nother community over here just so my daughters can go to school. But guess what? I like that side over there too. But guess what? We're held. When you go over to the other side, the community is not built tight. Like we said before, said before, that on that side, everyone cares for themselves. That's what Corey said. Everyone cares for themselves. But why is that so? Why do we not have a tight-knit community over there when we know we're the ones struggling over here? Why is it on this side over here in Columbia County, we can turn to our neighbors left and right and ask them anything, and they're going to try to give us an answer? Right. The power went out for 3 days, and people over here was opening their homes to people that they did not know.
Right. Now, let me say this, because what we're touching on is a touchy topic, right? And I think this is where I get myself in trouble a lot. And, I don't care. I am who I am. But you got to highlight the fact that a lot of people, it's a lot of pride. There are a lot of egos that goes into it. A lot of people who will never tell you that they need help or that they don't have all the answers, right? Because that's almost a politician's thing, right? I'm always going to tell you that I can improve something. And then years later, down the road, you've elected me. I don't do what I told you I was going to do. It's just the lip service that we give, right? So to that point, I always like to highlight like this because people like to stray away from it. Columbia County, right? Evans, Grovetown, and Richmond County have always been at odds. That's just real, right? Like I hate the fact that that's the truth, because I feel like we're all adults and we should be setting an example where Columbia County and Richmond County can actually thrive together. But that's not true, right? I have conversations with people from Columbia County all the time, and they're just like, hey, Richmond County has its own problems. The United States of America, and there's two counties that are right next to each other. And like, hey, they have their own problems. It kind of rubs me the wrong way, because once again, you start to have that two-way street at the end of the day. And I feel that the leaders, and it doesn't, I'm not always going to say elect people who actually have the support of the people, they should go above and beyond to show that we can actually build relationships and actually work together to fix the things that are wrong, right? Because once again, our center is Augusta. If we're able to fix our center, where everybody likes to go visit that mall, right? Everybody likes to go, and take part in different activities we have in Augusta. We shouldn't be sitting there like, oh, well, we're going to try to do something different here in Columbia, and we're just going to ignore the fact that Augusta is struggling. That's a recipe for disaster, and that's my argument for everything in the nation right now. The Defense Department eats up so much funding. And I was in the Defense Department for 20 years, and I saw us waste $6 billion here and billions of dollars here. They don't like for me to say it, but it's the honest God truth. Those billions could have been better spent in other places in hindsight, right? But go ahead, Ms. Jackson, what you got?
No, yes, true with the money and the funding, but when it comes to leadership, as you know, trust in, or who to believe, or who to follow, unless I talk to them and I get this feeling with them to follow them. That's not the case when you go over there to Richmond County. It's hard to sit there and have a conversation with them because no one wants to talk to you over there in Richmond County.
And they run from the conversations. Just like when I was, like, y'all know, I used to stand out, got rid of Howard Park. Like, we used to try to go to the community meetings and stuff, and they would prolong the questions. They would prolong the whole meeting until we have to come back the next day just so they won't have to answer our questions. And that's the type of things we deal with in Augusta. Like, we try. It ain't like we don't try, but it's the people that's in office. And once they get in office, it's like they forget about everybody else. It's like they being paid to just protect their own family. You know what I'm saying?
No. Hey, Mr. Gordon, let me jump in. I'm gonna give it right back to you. It's not even like that. That's what they're doing. That's what they are being paid to do, and that's the frustration in it. And we talked about this on a number of times. The frustration is that that politicians are frontmen. Politicians, I can't name a politician right now that doesn't have somebody backing them that tells them what to do. That's just part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Right. So with that, it's very hard to find a politician that's actually going to give you the truth and actually deliver on the things that they promise you. So those politicians right now that you're talking about in Richmond County, yeah, they ignore your phone calls, they ignore your emails, right? When I say that less than 10% of the public actually voted for the mayor, right? That mayoral race, it's the truth. People don't participate in politics no more because it don't work for them. So that's the frustration. And yeah, it's true. Once again, what Twin said earlier, over here on this side of town in Columbia County, guess what? People know their rights and they utilize their rights. They call people and they hold them accountable. So it just so happens it's none but Republicans over here in Columbia County, right? Go figure. I don't know why that is. Like, there's no Democrats really elected at the county level. So I'm not saying that it's the Democrats' fault. What I am saying is this. I don't care about Democrats, Republicans, red versus blue when it comes to that. If you have constituents, then you should be talking to them and figuring out what their problems is. It shouldn't be ignoring people. It shouldn't be ignoring emails or phone calls, or I'm going to talk to you, or I don't want to talk to you because you're talking about something that I'm going to have to answer for. That's what the whole point of you running for that office is, right? Like, and so we've had absent leadership within Augusta and Richmond County for a long time. That's just the fact of the matter. And the office I'm running for is federal, once again, because I honestly believe that's the best place for me to run. History tells us that a lot of times at the local and state level, when people aren't doing the right things, sometimes you have to get some federal legislation moving to actually get things moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're running for the federal level, but if the state level doesn't want to cooperate with you, how do you get them to cooperate with you? You understand what I'm saying? Like, there are so many people, like Corey was just saying, that are out for themselves. And if they know you're trying to make a change and they are the majority and you're one individual up there, like, how are you going to get them to change their mind or to go what you know is best for the community?
I'll tell you like this. I had some pretty good leaders in the military, and they gave me some pieces of advice that I carry to this day. The first piece of advice was from a man named General Hamilton. He told me, or he told the group, and I just kind of soaked it up. He said that you can do all the hard work in the world that you want to do, but you got to really message well, right? Because he told us we had a messaging problem. So that stuck with me, right? The message. I had to have a message. But second of all, the federal level is influence, right? At the state level, they have influence as well, right? But it's state and local influence. Our biggest problem right now is I don't think that we utilize our influence to get the results we want. So, yeah, it's all about negotiation, right? Because the state and local level is ran by Republicans. I mean, you got to do something that they want to do, right? You have to. You have to negotiate, and you're going to have to compromise, right? There are certain things on each side of the aisle that people want done. Now, here's the thing that's been happening in Richmond County and Augusta, though. I think that the deal has not been 50-50. I don't know what the percentage was, but I know for a fact that the Democrats have been getting the short end of the stick in Georgia and at the local level. You have to leverage the federal, and you have to influence through the resources that you can bring to bear. I mean, this is what I would say, because I would point out Tommy Tuberville right now, what he's doing in Alabama, how he, as a senator from that state, he is literally influencing himself on the entire military, how he stopped promotions across the board, right, with generals, right? He's using his influence. He doesn't direct the U.S. Army on what they can do or the military, right? But what he's doing right now, he's utilizing a form of influence to get the results he wants, because he doesn't want he does not want federal dollars going towards paying for leave for female soldiers if they get pregnant, or paying for them to be able to go to another state if they are in a state that restricts abortion. So with that, he did, and this is Republican, he utilized his position to get the results at the state and local level that he's looking at. Does that make sense? So for me, this is all about strategy. It's a big game. Politics is that game. I don't like it because I think you're playing with people's lives, right? And that's why I'm here. I think people have been playing with people's lives for a long time. This has been happening where they don't care if people are homeless out here in Augusta. That's not part of the equation when certain people are in office. They don't care that you have children that are going through childhood pregnancies. Right? That's the Roe v. Wade thing. That's a big thing, right? So they don't care about that, right? They don't care that the kids are undereducated. I'm telling you, the Georgia Cyber Center, look it up. All that money that was invested, I'm asking the question, how long have we had underperforming high schools and schools in Augusta, Georgia? You're spending money in the wrong places, but it's the people who actually have control of those resources. So how would I actually, at the federal level, be able to control that? It's very difficult. Lynn Gladney said the best way is to get people into those seats. We have to vote people in at the local and state level. But at the federal level, if I'm all by myself and it's just little old me, hey, you got to learn how to influence things from the seat that you have, right? So I think that's what we need. We need more leaders that aren't afraid to put their self on the line, their futures on the line, their own well-being, and their selves. You have to be bigger than self when you get into these positions to represent for those people who aren't being represented.
Right. And I completely 100% agree with what you're saying. But the issue is we don't have those leaders that are willing to step up. Those that are currently stepping up are for their own agenda and not for the agenda of the community. You understand what I'm saying? So how do you get those individuals that they know they can do good for the community, yet they're not willing to play this political game? Because when I get elected into the board of education or to be the superintendent of a school, I mean, that's all local elections right there. And it's who's the most popular, not who can make the most effect in the school system and who can make school fun and educate and teach the kids. It's how many people I know and who's going to elect me and what I can do for you. If you scratch my back, can I scratch your back the same way?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So, and to that point, I'm glad you brought it up. It's a popularity. Because he's famous. Why would you run Dr. Oz? I mean, there's a lot of people where politics, it has nothing to do with getting things done these days. It's about people. If I can get that person in that seat, then I can give this person, right? We pay for this person to get to that seat, right? With all the negative ads and stuff to detract from the other person, right? We got to get this person in the seat. But then the people who actually pay to get you there, you then work for them and they control all the resources through you. And that's what I'm saying. So yeah, it's very difficult to get people to understand it. But I think just from my standpoint, that's the struggle for politicians or for people who want to make a change. Educating your people. Because as I said, and I'm going to say this again, I think I told you this, Corey, the day that the people from the South Side actually stand up, South Side stand up, and we actually start voting, like we start voting way more than, I promise you, we're going to see all kinds of businesses popping up on the South Side because when we at the table.
And we're not just talking, but the thing is, right, voting, yes, but most people only know about the presidential elections every 4 years. All the other elections are like a year, 2 years, and they're on random dates. And then they don't publicize it, so people don't know about it, so people don't vote. So those that are already in office continue to be in office.
Well, let me ask this question, Corey, because you can probably talk to that. How is it about from what you've seen throughout the city and throughout the areas you've been in? How is that? People don't.
Corey, did you get that? Do you hear about the voting that's going on? How do they advertise?
Because go ahead.
I froze up. What was the question now?
No, the question was, I know last time around for the 2022 election, remember we were going around, we had Lynn Gladney helping her get to that point. But before then, in some of the past races, how was it as far as the information flow when it came to turning out election, right? Was it a widespread message that everybody knew about elections, or is there a lack of information flowing?
Oh, what no information? Nobody know nothing.
See? Just like I'm telling you, you have to dig through websites to try to figure out what is going on or when the local election is. You have to actively be involved to know when elections are when.
All right, go ahead, Corey.
It's like they doing it secretly or something. Just like when we went down to the Democratic meeting and there was a couple old guys in there, and that's the real reason why I'm still here now, bro. Because I got my heart. It touched my heart that wasn't nobody in here representing our community or our, you know what I mean, or our district. So I was like, man, well, what can I do as a barber? And I was like, well, I talk to people all the time, so I just started talking to everybody that sat in my chair, and it came to find out like a lot of us woke Jack, but a lot of us we just don't have the education, or we don't know the knowledge, or we don't have the dates of when everything is going on, except the people that's running for certain stuff.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And look, I made this comment too because I've been in the federal government for the past 20 years, and I said, yeah, anytime we need everybody in the military to know something, we have a distro with everybody's email address in it, right? And we can send it out, and everybody knows about it. Like, oh, okay, we all got to get our shots, right? Like, right. Voting is that important, but I always wondered. I was like, man, why do they try to keep it a secret? But then you start to realize you keep control when you keep it a secret, right? That's like one of their favorite sayings back in the days when they're like, oh, put this in a book. I bet you they won't read it, right? So it disappoints me being in the federal government for 20 years where my entire purpose was defending the nation. I'm like, man, okay, I'm defending the entire nation. I don't look at it as a black or white thing or Richmond County, Columbia County thing. You know what I mean? You look at it as I'm just defending the nation. I'm being sent overseas to defend people, right? Because it's a national interest. And I say that I'm gonna focus in on that. It's a national interest. I've heard that so many times as a federal employee that we are working for a national interest. I'm telling you right now, the national interest is to ensure that the people of America are educated, that the people of America are healthy, right? So education, healthcare, all these things. I'm just shocked. Once again, to be a federal employee for 20 years, to know what we've done for other countries and other people in other countries, to come back here, to know that I have to come back to a local government who's been out for self. They've literally been out for self the entire time. It's aggravating, right? So with that, we're at the 46-minute mark. So I'm going to start to really throw some grenades out here that we can go ahead and jump on. Sorry for that, because that's a bad it's a bad term I use. But you know what I'm getting after. I really want to talk about something that's very impactful, that's going to touch people for these last few minutes. So the one thing I want to share is going back to the 20 years that I spent in the military. What I really want to say is this, and I want y'all to weigh in on it. I really do not feel that it is right for us as a people to have so many separations or I would call divisions within our communities. We have a lot of people, because I just went to it was an art show at my daughter's school here. We have a lot of people as you go around to these different schools, no matter what county, and it is clear division. Where I go to Warren County and they're like, hey, that school over there has like 98% black. And this school over here has 98% black. And it's clear who gets more resources, right? It's clear. Columbia County versus Richmond County. I'm not saying that Columbia County gets more resources. I would never say that. I don't have the stats. Actually, Columbia County probably does a lot more. This is what I want people to understand. It is not the same. If I can leave this conversation with anything else, it is not the same. We cannot, when we prioritize, because it's not infinite amounts of money that we have in the world, right? We set it up that way. That is why we struggle with dealing with inflation. We struggle with dealing with all these different things. But what I will say is this: if we have an issue and people start to have issues with money, right? And people start to have issue with resources, I'm saying it should not be a thing where you start to say, okay, what zip code do you live in, right? Every zip code should have access to the same things, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying. I want to get y'all feedback on this before we leave, because I want to talk towards the difference in zip codes in different places where kids are raised. What is your take on how Columbia County versus Richmond County is? But then you see it all across the nation. Go ahead.
So look, I can tell you this. I live in this neighborhood and my tax money goes towards the education, even though if I heard correctly on the Columbia County Board of Education meeting, they get less money per child than Richmond County does, right? It's just that the parents are more invested in their child's education. Therefore, we are more involved in our children's education. So if there's something goes wrong, guess what? I'm calling the school. If something happened with my daughter, I'm calling school. Her grade is slipping, I'm calling school. If they need my assistance for volunteer work because they're undermanned and they can't host this art show without volunteers, guess what? I'm volunteering my time and you're volunteering your time. That's just how it is. You can't say the same on the Richmond County side. I can't say that their parents are just as involved. I know their parents care, but they can't be as involved because they have to go make that dollar so that they can raise, so that they can pay for food, because some of their that is paying us currently to be retired. That is not the same that can be said on the Richmond County side. Most people on the Richmond County side do not have careers. They're over there working for wages, and their wages has to pay for their being, you know what I mean? Their car note, gas, food, rent, clothes on their kids' back, you know. Phone call to their child's teacher and say, why is my child's grade slipping? Matter of fact, they might not even know their child's grade is slipping because they don't have that time to sit there and look at the report card. They're just signing off on it. They can't be as invested as us.
So to that point, and that's I'm going to pause you there because I think that was the perfect response, because talking towards that, the reality of having parents who are well off versus those parents who have to work, right, a lot more. We've all seen it, right, where it's not that the parents don't care, right, especially on the Richmond County side. I mean, I come from that side. It's a lot of parents, and that's the problem that a lot of the educators have. They're like, hey, the parents always up here at the school. Yes, some of those parents is going to come up there, you know, in they flip-flops to get the kids right? They might come from work to get the kids right. But you have to understand those parents are working full-time to put food on the table a lot of times and all that good stuff. So with that, I always go back to right versus wrong, you know, and all that sort of stuff. If we know is that involvement, because in Columbia County, I'm telling you, all the parents are paying extra money to those schools. River Ridge, I feel like it's a private tuition that's there, right? Like we pay so much money to the school. We're always there involved. It's because we have the availability, right? So Corey, Richmond County, talk to me. Is there anything that stands out in what we're saying that you want to add to that?
Of course, bro. Actually, both of y'all hitting the nail on the head, because actually I got a daughter that just moved in with me, right? And of course, she's in Richmond County. And I actually have a son that goes to Columbia County. School system totally different, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when it came to the podcast, our son was able to help us with the podcast versus my daughter was like, I was like, what you learned in school? She's like, nothing, I already know everything. Because she came from another county. So basically, she ain't learning nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so we just need education. And it was like Twin was saying, like, we don't have time. Just like a lot of the homes broken up. You only have the mother or you have the father. There's no one together. So mom got to go to work. She got to be the mom and the daddy. She got to go to work. She got to come home, cook, and worry about homework, put everybody to sleep, put them, you know what I mean? Then you got to wake them up, go to work. And that's just only one person. So, of course, you don't have time to worry about the education. Of course, that's on her mind every day. So she'll try to, once the report card, she'll fuss at him if it's bad. But if it's good, she ain't got nothing to say. But if it's bad, how can she help him? She don't got time to help him. She want to help him, but she can't.
Right.
Yeah. And even in programs, you know, we don't got no programs to put them in. It's like, you got after school programs, but they ain't doing them but running around.
Right. Yeah. And look, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Gordon, because I think this is going to be the capstone of this episode, because what you're saying right now, and this is something that Miss Ponsier Daniel said, I think this is something that Selena Keys talked towards. I asked the question about some of the things that we're dealing with right now, right? We're dealing with a gun epidemic. We're dealing with crisis when it comes to drugs. We're dealing with a homeless crisis in a lot of different places. We're dealing with a lot of different things across the nation. But this is what I really want to drill down into for the last amount of time that we're having here. It's about the opportunities that we offer, right? Because that's what Miss Selena Keys said. She's like, it has nothing to do with guns or mental health, Mr. Jackson. It's about the opportunities. If these kids, if these young folks, or even grown folks, because there's still people, as I told Twin earlier, how do you actually take somebody that does something wrong, you put them in a prison, right, or a jail, which is way worse than there, right? Like I'm gonna teach you some really bad habits in there, and then you bring them out and you don't actually rehabilitate that person truly, but you put them back into the same community. It sounds like people don't care, right? That's when I started to understand that people don't care. So going back to it, the way that we offer opportunities, right? two people, whether it be Columbia County, Richmond County, let's end on that one. Let's talk about the opportunities. Do you feel that it is fair right now as far as the opportunities and how the access that kids have? Because once again, if you grew up in Richmond County, that's all you know is Richmond County. Do you have a fair shake at actually making what a child in Columbia County might be able to achieve?
So I'm taking a class right now in sociology, and what's crazy is I can't quote it per se, but how we treat kids in different communities affect how they turn out. So let's just say it stated before that. So if there were two group of boys, one comes from Columbia County and one come Richmond County, identical. If the judge, jury, executioner, police officer, whoever it may be, teacher, knew that you come from the Richmond County side, if you sat here and you were jaywalking, let's just say jaywalking, because that's a huge thing in California. If you are jaywalking and you came from the Richmond County side, I'm going to arrest you. I am going to lock you up, and then you're going to have a mark on your record for that, right? Mm-hmm. Same exact boys in Columbia County decided to jaywalk. They're going to get stopped, they're going to get talked to, and then they're going to get a warning, and it moves on. So guess what? Those boys, just because they're from Columbia County and they act a different way, they're going to get a pass for it. That's automatic. But if you're from Richmond County and you do the exact same, you can better believe that something's going to happen to you. You're going to get a ticket, you're going to get arrested, you're going to get fined, you're going to get something that sets you back 2 steps from where you were at.
Yeah, so that's over policing has always been the issue because they harp in on, or they harp on different issues over here in Columbia County.
I think it's unfair punishment overall. Like the punishment never ever meets the crime when you're in underserved communities. Never meets the. Never.
Can you walk down the street around here?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like once again, if your environment is what's going to allow you to thrive. Me as a young Black male coming from the places where I came from. My father was an enlisted soldier, so he had 6 kids. We didn't have the benefit a lot of times to be able to have the nicest clothes and shoes, and that has nothing to do with the way we were going to turn out. But what happened was we started to understand as we got older that we got the short end of the stick, because when we finally started to go out into the world, we started to realize like, oh, okay, how did these kids know about credit? How did these kids know about this? How did these kids know about all these different things that their parents, right? Whether it be a father that was knowledgeable or a mother that was knowledgeable, right? It just so happens that happens a lot more in places that aren't underserved. Usually, like we talked about, in the underserved communities, you have single mothers, you have, single parent households, you have those things that are going to be hindrances. So you start to add those up, and that child starts to be behind the power curve, the more and more obstacles you add up, right? So, and that's all I'm trying to get people to understand is leveling the playing field means leveling the playing field. You can't make every child's environment perfect at home. That's another conversation we talked about with Selena Keys. But we have to try to at least make the school system to a certain point where every child feels as if they can go in there and be their best that they can be. So, with that, Corey, you got any last words, good sir?
I'm just glad you had me on the show, bro. I just think we need to do better as a community, bro, and just go out and just education is the key, like we say on every show, bro. And I just think the more education we get, the further we'll get. We just need to come together and don't be scared, because I think fear is our number one thing, and I think that's what's stopping us. Because if we try to do it by ourselves, it ain't gonna happen. They're gonna knock you down every time. But if we all stand up, they can't knock everybody down. And that's what I got to say.
That's what's up. Miss Jackson, what you got?
I think from episode 1 to episode 4 now, we know that family plays a huge part in a child's growth. And if children are our future, we really do need to be invested in them. So if we can just help one another out and build a community so that we can have families outside of families, I think that's going to help our community a lot.
I want to echo what both of y'all just said. I think coming together, the family aspect of it is real. Just because you live in one county doesn't mean that you're not for the other county. All right, it's the United States of America. It's called that for a reason. The sooner we start to act that way, I think that things will start to get better, and we'll start to work towards combined solutions that help all people. But with that, hey, I appreciate y'all coming on the show. I appreciate everybody tapping in for another episode of Politics for the People. As I said, we'll be off next week, but check us out. We're going to start moving around the city and moving around the different counties to start to talk to a lot more people out there that have these issues that want to get their voice out there. So, hey, I'll see y'all out there. Y'all have a great night.